Alrighty, y'all. Thank you all for joining us today, both in person and virtually, for Anna's end of year presentation. She's going to go over her junior year here at UTSA. We do ask that you allow the staff and the faculty to offer any commentary on behalf of Anna or questions, and then we'll open it up for you all to do the same. So with that, Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fernando. So the very first thing I want to say is thank you genuinely so much for coming. All 7 of you are very important to me in my life. And I'm not counting George and Fernando because they have to be here, but they're also very important to me. So this presentation is not going to be as, I guess, comparison is a thief of joy, yes, but it's not going to be as extravagant as my past ones have been because I don't feel that I did a lot this year, but that's okay because my main goal this year was quite literally to just survive it. And I also wanted to invite my favorite professors because it'll be even more important for you to be able to make it next year because that will be my summary on all 4 years. So that's like the big one. But yeah, so this is my end of year presentation, which is something that we have to do for Top Scholar, but it's really fun. We get to see what everyone is involved in, everything everyone has been doing. So as I mentioned, that's my favorite philosopher, Albert Camus. I put him on there. I don't respect him as a person, but as a philosopher, I really like him. So I want to start off by saying that the 3 pillars of Top Scholar are knowledge, leadership, and service. These are all incredibly important to every single Top Scholar because at the end of the day, everything that we do is to strive to be a better person that fits these pillars. That being said, my presentation isn't necessarily going to be structured in that fashion. I like to do mine chronologically because that's how I think of things. So that is kind of how it's going to be divided, but within the categories. So last summer was actually really great. These are some of my friends from Cyprus. So I don't see them very often because I'm not in Houston a lot. But that's my friend Chloe over there too. And then that's my cousin Nicole, who I hadn't seen in years because she lives in Mexico. But it was a really good summer and I genuinely had a lot of fun. And then everything crashed. I had the worst hypochondriac episode that I've had my entire life. So last fall semester was probably the most I've ever struggled in my entire life ever. It was incredibly difficult and I was trying to write a lot. As you can see, I was trying to process my thoughts and I was trying to get past it, but I really, really, really do not think that I would have made it if it wasn't for my friends. So my friends were there for me, and these are obviously like my Top Scholar friends, but these people are genuinely so important to me. And this is kind of like the chronological development of my emotional year, let's say. So this was at Jasmine Sisters Quinceañera. That was at Thanksgiving. We had a fake tattoo party. That was a night that Zaina and I stayed up really late learning, exchanging Arabic and French. So that was really fun too. And then that was the first time I drank alcohol in public because I turned 21 or ever. So that was really fun. And then I also met this group of guys who became my little brothers. This was the group that I was spending the vast majority of my time with last semester because we were all in chemistry together. And so we have gone on so many adventures and they genuinely all become my brothers. So I really wanted to like make a slide about all of them. They're all incredibly important to me. Brandon's here in person and then some of them I think are online, but they're all really great and they all kind of got very serious with me last semester and they helped me genuinely a lot to just process everything that I was going through emotionally. And that's why like they are genuinely in my eyes, like these people are my brothers, you know? And then over winter break, I had a lot of fun. I hung out with my best friend Chloe, which we've been friends since we were like 15. So she's also incredibly important to me. She's going to A&M. She's incredibly successful. I admire her a lot. But I also got to go to Connecticut to go see Scott for 2 weeks. So that was really fun. We went to Yale, which was an incredible experience. They have this amazing library there with a bunch of old books and a Holocaust memorial. And you see all of these translations of things in Yiddish and in German. It was just so eye-opening. And I started calming down a little bit about grad school. I was like, okay, I can find somewhere that I like, you know, as long as there's a bunch of old books, I'll be okay, right? And then Scott gave me a taxidermied rat for Christmas, which is probably the best Christmas present I've ever gotten in my life. Yeah, he knows me very well. I miss him very much, but yeah, he's in Connecticut, so. And then shout out to Michael for, I don't know, we've just been weirder than usual this year. I don't know what happened, but this is like specifically these past 2 weeks, we dressed up for Easter. And then we made Zaina take photos of us, so that was really funny. But yeah, so knowledge, right? I joined a lab, I found out I have an associate's degree, and I finished my part on my first publication. So these are all huge things that, you know, I was thinking that I would have partaken in earlier in college. And as most of you know, I was in a lab for my first 2 years, but it was just not a very good fit. And they were doing things that genuinely were the most interesting things I've ever heard of. It was a perfect match to what I'm interested in. But in terms of what I was given and deadlines, it was just not a good fit for either of us. And so I kind of just stepped down, you know, and then Fernando asked me to introduce Dr. Mecca at one of our weekly SSPs. And I said, oh, well, yes, I took him freshman year for developmental psychology, of course. And he said, by the way, maybe you should talk to him about joining his lab. And this was a lab that I had researched my freshman year, but I had ultimately found one that was a better fit in terms of the knowledge that was being investigated. And I had also, I think, sophomore year, I had already been asking Dr. Weber, hey, are there any labs that you know about that I can join? And he gave me some names and I reached out there too. But Dr. Mecca was like immediately like, yes, here's this, here's that, here's whatnot. And I got accepted into the lab, which was absolutely great. My associates, yeah, I did not know that I had one. I have an Associates of Arts. I found out through Lone Star, so I guess I can be a substitute now if I would like to do that. That's the only thing that I can think of to do with it that I would like really enjoy. And then publication, yeah. So this, as you can see, it says profiles of traditional feminine gender roles and alcohol use among Latino college students. So that was super interesting. And my PI, as well as the grad student that I'm working under, said that I have a really good knack for research. So that it genuinely made me like start skipping, and like I ran to tell my parents about it because these messages were exchanged over spring break, and I was just so excited. Like I'm finally doing stuff. I'm finally contributing to publications. I'm, you know, I felt real. I felt like a real researcher, like a real student. So this is the TARDIS lab that I'm on. I also, this is not the same as the publication, but I presented my first research poster where, you know, I had done the writing and whatnot. I did attend in Chicago last year, the Northeastern Psychological Association's like 96th meeting. And so that was my first time going to one because I wanted to see what it was all about, and I really enjoyed it. And then finally, I got my first experience being able to present, and I had a number of people, including Zaina, go see me. And they kind of all said, wow, like I would have never guessed that this is your first time presenting. I was like, okay, maybe I do belong here. Maybe I'm doing things right. So that was also super exciting. I have an associate's degree, and I got that through a reverse transcript thing through UTSA. So I would have not gotten that if it weren't for UTSA. So thank you. And then now we can move on to leadership. So these are the 3 main things that I'm going to touch on for leadership. So this year I was the French Club president. I was the director of events for the Top Scholar Student Organization. And I also went to USPAA, which is something that I would have not guessed that I would have ever participated in. But our Top Scholar staff reached out to me and they asked me if I would be interested in going. So I said, sure. So they funded it, and it was actually a really good experience. I learned a lot of stuff that I took back with me to my role as French Club president specifically. So French Club was, wow, it was a lot this year. There were a lot of different things that we did, a lot of different places that we went. So this right here is from a specific little room that we had for Journée de la Francophonie. So that was a UTSA-wide event where we had a bunch of people come in, and we had schools like the International School of San Antonio, and we have a really big presence in San Antonio in terms of French speakers and French families. So it's always nice to see Madame Hall putting in every single second of every single day to making these events possible. So she's great. And then this is an orchestra that I also went with Zaina to go watch. And these are children, like minors from France that are on their world tour. And they sound like they have 20 years of experience. And it was insane. It was completely insane. But we also had a lot of fundraisers, and we had a lot of events to just kind of get the word out there that, hey, we exist. And then we also had a lot of other events like tabling. This was the first time that the French Club was tabling. We sold crepes, which is also the first time that the French Club had ever done that. That's me in a World War II outfit with a French flag, so I got really into it, I suppose. And then we went to the Spurs game, which was nice. We had a yoga night, which was nice. And then we also had a book sale. So unfortunately, a French professor at UTSA passed away, and he had retired for a while, but he had this massive collection of French and Spanish and Occitan books. And so he gave them all to us. And, you know, it was really, really disappointing that libraries in San Antonio didn't want the books, but I mean, it's understandable. These books are old. Some of them are from literally like the 1920s. Some of them are over 100 years old, and they're in French. So it's understandable, but it was really, really, really nice to get the vast majority of these books a home to where they can be read and understood. And yeah, I got a book that's over 100 years old up on the morphemes and phonemes of Old French. So that was super exciting. I was like skipping back to my dorm after that. And then this was literally last night, Madam Hall gave us this kind of like scholarship donation thing that she had been given, and she hosted a dinner for a lot of the French Club people, and it meant a lot to me because she invited each of us by name. This wasn't like a post it and whoever comes, like it was a set number of people that she could invite. And she texted me, she said, hey, are you free Monday? And I thought that it was gonna be for, can we go table, can we go do this? I was like, yeah, of course. And she said, you've worked really hard this semester and I want to reward you. I'm doing this dinner for students that I feel like have a lot of potential and have worked hard. I was like, wow, I felt appreciated, and it felt really nice to see the other officers there. And yeah, I absolutely love Madam Hall. She is genuinely like carrying the entire weight of the French department here on her shoulders, and she's amazing. Help. So, so I don't think that most of you know how deep this is, but I, believe it or not, am not an extroverted person. I genuinely, like, I love hanging out with people, I love being social, right? But I recharge completely by myself. I enjoy being alone with my cat more than like almost anything. And so being the president of the French Club, having to go to all of these events, having to talk to a lot of people, it really pushed me out of my comfort zone. For a very long time, I thought that I would never be able to do something like that because, you know, I can be social, but for short periods of time. And I never thought that I would have the capacity to like lead an entire club and be at everything and interact with everyone. And I feel that this past year, this experience really helped me to prepare for my biggest role for next year, which I'm the executive director for next year for the Top Scholar Student Organization. So I wanted that since freshman year, so I'm very, very content about it. There is a bit of nuance with that, but we'll get to that in a second. So the last thing, the USPAA, that was really fun. So that's not it. 1 second. We'll find the photos eventually. I don't know where they went. Anyway, USPA, I learned a lot about leadership and a lot about how it's very important to have a number of different disciplines melded into whatever you do. Nothing that you do is completely on its own discipline, and you should not exist that way, you know? And I went with Jonah, which was really nice. And I tricked everybody there into thinking that Jonah was my little brother. So that was also really fun. I hope the pictures show up eventually. They're somewhere. Oh, they're right here. Yes. So that's me and Jonah. We went to a bunch of different presentations and we met a bunch of people. And there were representatives from a lot of different scholarship groups from around Texas. So that, and from around the United States too. So that was very eye-opening. That presentation was my absolute favorite. It had a lot to do with psychology. That's why it was my favorite. But yeah, it was a really good time. We learned a lot. Yeah, Jonah's my little brother now. These are the pictures I showed people. So I was like, yeah, it's me and Jonah when we were little. That's my friend Bagash from Florida. So yeah, but people believed it. Yeah, it's me and Jonah. All right, so actually, hold on, let me go back because I think can I go back? How do okay, no.
Can I have the It's a little area.
Yeah, it's okay, I'll just do this. Wait.
On the screen.
I'm
Yeah,
so
on the
silly,
screen.
guys. I'm sorry. Wait, okay. 1 second. All right. So, oh, here we are. Okay.
There we go.
So this is for director of events. Sorry. So director of events. The biggest event that we had in the fall semester was the Spirit Week. That was really fun. I feel like I did my job and I provided the big and little matches to have an opportunity to hang out, to get to know each other, to be creative. So that was really fun. Shout out to Artie and Terry for winning that. Very good job, guys. Very creative. Yeah, these are great. We have a lot of very creative kids, and I'm super excited for the next cohort to come in. I know they're going to be great. And then there were a lot of different events that we hosted. So this is Valentine's, that's for Thanksgiving. That's Erie back there. And this is the pumpkin that I made, says Erie Halloween. So, and this picture Ashley took of me, which I appreciate because she made me look really nice there. But yeah, so we had a lot of fun events and it was a really good time. And then these are some of my favorite costumes from the Halloween parties. That's Jose, that's Ashley, that's Erie again with the front side of the pumpkin. And that's us at Kayla's apartment. We all dressed up. That's fun. North's hat was the tallest hat I've ever seen in my life. That was ridiculous. And that's Fabian. And that, I think. All right. And then the biggest event that I hosted this spring semester, was the Murder Mystery Week. So I had to go to a bunch of different offices of professors and staff within the Honors College and ask if I could take photos of their office because one of them murdered Fernando and I wanted the scholars to figure out who it was. So I made a code. I had them solve a Visionaire code and I had them, yeah. Good on you guys. Artie won that one, so good job again, Artie.
Thank you.
So yeah, this is the USPAA one that I was talking about. Great experience, learned a lot. So for service and community, I have been incredibly involved this semester within the French-speaking community in San Antonio. And that is through both UTSA and through the International School of San Antonio. As most of you know, I have been with the International School of San Antonio since my freshman year, so it's been a while. I don't know if most of you know, I have had experience working with kids and being an in-class aide or teaching my own classes since I was 13. So I have a very long history of working with children, and while I do not think that that is my career, I think sometimes in life you're going to meet people that act like toddlers anyway. So it's good experience, and yeah, it's been great. So this was last semester. Last semester was the first time that I stopped teaching French and I started teaching Spanish at the International School of San Antonio. So here are some of my favorite stuff that I drew on the board. We had one little boy who was really obsessed with Deadpool. So I drew Deadpool for him to label the body parts. He had a lot of fun doing that. And then I found that 2 of my braids that I had cut 2 years ago, I had not yet donated, so I sent those. And I'm currently still working on trying to get into contact with them because I would like to do some kind of poster presentation to get an awareness out there. I have been donating hair since I was 8 years old. So total, I have donated 10 1-foot braids, so a little over 10 feet of hair. And I'm actually cutting it again this summer, so I'm cutting it back to here and I'll be donating 2 braids again. But I just genuinely believe that a lot of people don't know how accessible this stuff is. A lot of people think that you can't donate if it's not a foot long, if your hair is dyed, if you have gray hair. A lot of misconceptions exist. So I have always donated since I was 8 and at the time living in Miami to Locks for Love, which is an organization that mainly centers around patients with alopecia and with cancer. So I really appreciate this place because they also send me a little card. There's one missing from here, but they always send me a little card every time I donate, which is like a relief because that means they got my donation and it was accepted. And yeah, the hair's not going to waste. So that's exciting. So I finished making this slide deck before I knew what I was doing this summer. So here are my options. I was like, well, maybe I'll go to Costa Rica, maybe I'll minor in philosophy, maybe I'll, I put it at the very bottom because it was the farthest shop that I had, and it was Bourne. So the Bourne Scholarship is funded by the Department of Defense, and it is apparently, because I didn't know a lot about it until afterwards, I just applied for, it sounded very cool and I applied, but I did not know how difficult it was to get into it until very recently. So, I knew it was hard, so that's why I put it at the very bottom, but they contacted me, they said, hey, we want to test your French level to make sure it's enough, because out of all of the languages and out of all of the countries that Bourne offers, French is the only one that requires a minimum. So I was like, well, lucky me, but I scored 2 levels higher than I needed, and then I got this. So I got accepted into the Bourne Scholarship, which I found out, don't quote me on this, right? But I found somewhere that the last 2 years it's been 9 and 11 students from the entire United States respectively. So I don't know if that's for the entire African Flagship Language Initiative, which is 3 different countries and 3 different languages, or if it's just for French in Senegal. I don't know. But point is, 10 people, like about 10 people from the entire US. I was like, whoa, So what this entails is basically when I graduate, I'm going to start working for the government. So yay! Hopefully in linguistics, and the goal is still maybe one day through some kind of government agency to receive funding to finish my education and then become a neuropsychologist, probably for the military, probably maybe in research, who knows? But there's a lot of different options going on right now. And then I had some counselors tell me that because I received Boren, I'm much more competitive now. And apparently Boren will postpone the 1 year of service that I have to do if I choose to go to grad school. So maybe I'll go get a master's and then I'll have a lot more options. So that's really exciting too. Thank you.
So, Anna, like, I couldn't help but just smile throughout your whole entire presentation. I'm so beyond proud of you. I'm so glad that you and I have gotten a lot closer because you just visit my office sometimes.
Every day.
Random things, and I got murdered, and we had to figure out as well. But it's just been a pleasure getting to advise you and see you grow these last 3 years. Like, who would have thought, your love for French would have gotten you to where you're at now, right? And so I'm super proud of you. You're super successful. You say that you're not doing a lot, but you are, and so I'm super proud of you, and can't wait to see what you do, and also can't wait to chat with you in the spring about how everything went in Senegal. Sorry, loss of words, but yeah, can't wait to chat in the spring to see what you're doing and how your experience went. But again, so proud of you.
Thank you.
We're hard pressed to find anyone from your cohort that doesn't have a fantastic presentation that highlights 100 million things that they've been doing. And so such it is true with you as well. And it's been really inspirational seeing you come this long way and keeping us up to date with everything and anything that is that you're doing, that you're feeling. So great job.
Oh, also, I forgot to say, this year, finally, after 2 years, I got my Oxford credit transferred. So I'm done with my psychology degree, finally. Thank you very much.
I don't know if any of the faculty in the room, y'all want to offer any commentary or questions to Anna.
Yes.
Great presentation, love learning more about you, but you still intrigue me in wonderful ways, and I think it echoes a little bit your comment, your not only your interest in so many things, but your real moving toward expertise in so many things. You're so smart. I mean, I had such a great time studying with you in Italy. But and we didn't do this when I had you in class, but I often say to my students, like, what is your 1 minute elevator speech? Like when we're working on a research paper, if you run into an old professor in the elevator and they say, what are you working on? What are you gonna tell them in 1 minute? And I'm not gonna time you to 1 minute, but what is your, if I ran into you in the elevator, like, what is it that you're studying and what is it that you want to do? And I'm not trying to pin you down, but I'm just wondering if you could give us a framework for all your interests and hopes and dreams. Not that you have to stay with it, but I'm just curious where it is right now.
I think that every single person, regardless of your background, and that's how I incorporate language and culture into it, deserves to have a good experience in life. And I have seen specifically how psychological issues and how neuropsychological issues have affected a number of people. And that is something that I'm very passionate about, but also the science behind it all is what really intrigues me. So that's why I'm studying neuroscience, but the part of me believing that I can treat more patients if I'm more understanding of where people come from. And specifically with neuropsychology, there's a lot of things that maybe there's not something physical. Maybe it's something from your past. Maybe it's something that's stressing you out. Maybe it's something that you hold on to emotionally. There's a number of different factors that can go into that. But that is why I am so invested in having this rounded experience, because I know that if I'm rounded, then I can understand how all rounded people work. People are multifaceted, and I don't think that if I had a singular discipline, I would be able to do a good job with what I want to do. So that is how I tie everything back into each other. Thank you.
Is there anyone online
That would like to give a comment, question?
Yes, I just want to thank Anna for all the effort she makes every day. We are very proud of you, Anna. We love you. And keep going.
Says Papa. Sorry. I love my dad.
That's fine, take your time.
Te quiero mucho, papá, gracias.
I know. There's a couple things I want to say. I want to like rant for like hours and hours about how much I love you and how grateful I am for our friendship, but I want to highlight like something you said at the beginning of your presentation was that you felt like you didn't accomplish as much this year. Like, we're all here. We all saw how much you accomplished. So I want you to know, like, I didn't even know the scope of everything you were doing with French Club. And just the hard work that you've put into yourself, like emotionally, the progress you've made as a person. Like, this is a snapshot of your story, but we all get to see a side of you, and we know that it went so much deeper than that. And so you achieved, I would argue that you achieved more than you ever have in your life before this year because of your personal growth. And I think that it might take months, it might take years, but you will see that these past few months will pay off, I think, exponentially in the rest of your career and the rest of your life going forward, because you were willing to sit with the discomfort of growing, you were willing to challenge yourself, and you were willing to put yourself in situations that pushed you, and you were willing to do things that were risky, you were willing to hope. And because of your hope, now you have all of these amazing things to look forward to. And so I just want you to know, like, we're all so proud of you. This year was not a pause or a break or a deviation from the path. It is your path, and it's going to set you towards even better things. And so I'm just so proud of you, and I love you so much, and I hope like we all have so much faith that whatever comes next for you in college and post-college is going to be amazing and make you so happy.
Thank you so much, Sana.
Okay, well, that does conclude our time that we have, so we can get ready for Mr. Collins. End of your presentation next, but Anna, it's been a pleasure. Congratulations on a very successful year, proud of you.